Atop the Fourth Wall action figures, Wave 1, available at this address. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. I've continued to fall behind in the schedule for various reasons, so time again to adapt a live show into a proper episode. Fortunately, it's a series we are only too familiar with, James Bond Jr. Your reminder if you're new around here. James Bond Jr. is a terrible early 90s cartoon focused on the nephew of James Bond and the inexplicable adventures he goes on fighting his uncle's classic villains while attending prep school. There, he also hangs out with other young family members of recurring characters of the franchise because brand recognition, I guess. Someday, I'll produce the Atop the Fourth Wall cartoon spin-off where Linkara, aka my second cousin, hangs out with 2010's kid and Kid Sano, who doesn't have a doctorate yet because he's 15. Lord Vice is still inexplicably there. But anyway, we've talked about the comics twice before on the show. Once way back in 2009, and then again for the 10th anniversary in 2018. At this rate, we'll have the comics wrapped up in about 80 years. The compilation video will be all over the place. And of course, I did it as a live show, reviewing issue number 6 of the comic tie-in for Con Bravo 2015, Asylum of Atop the Fourth Wall Live. In my late stage of naming the live shows after Doctor Who Dalek episodes, let's dig into James Bond Jr. number 6 and see what jokes I add or remove from this one.
The fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara. A universe in flux, Linkara. This comic sucks, Linkara.
The cover is okay, depicting Oddjob, and yes, that is Oddjob with his stylin' purple Joker hat and sunglasses, holding James and his friend over the side of a train. As I indicated, that kid is named IQ, the grandson of Q. There's more like that, but I'm just shocked that his love interest isn't some relation to Miss Moneypenny named Miss Cashnickel or something. Terror on the Orient Express. Guy known for murdering people with his hat about to throw children off the top of a train. Just as Agatha Christie intended. We open at the Warfield Academy in England, where James is a boarding student. And then the building explodes. Well, it was a terrible comic, but at least it was short. Actually, what I really love about this image is the fact that this explosion is huge, but it's barely affecting the people around it. The worst thing that's happening is some papers are falling over and a bicycle is a bit wobbly. It's just like in the first issue where flying cars and physical stunts were completely unimpressive to the ones who go to this school. How jaded are these people when most are just students? Inside the building, we see the headmaster, Bradford Milbank, scolding James and IQ over this, where we apparently learn that IQ's real name is Boothroyd. I had to look this up, and indeed, that's Q's real name in the Bond films. Did you all know that? I feel like an idiot for not knowing that, like it's some common bit of trivia about them, but I, not even up to a casual James Bond fan, had no idea. What did you think you were doing, boy? Mixing transium salts with a concentrated rhenium compound, Mr. Milbanks. And according to a Google search, those are not real things, meaning that IQ has already figured out the ancient technique of spouting bullcrap to the teacher. Transium does exist in one fictional setting, though. The New Adventures of He-Man, which was made a year before James Bond Jr. So I guess it's possible we're seeing one of the weirdest shared universes ever. Transium and rhenium? What on earth possessed you to mix explosive substances like that?
Well, in our defense, you're overly cheery and we were bored.
I was just experimenting to see what would happen. Wait a second. If you mix two explosive compounds together, they explode? Clearly, he has the nickname IQ because of his low score. And for almost blowing up the school, they get detention over a holiday weekend. I'd say that seems a little lenient considering the explosion, but we did see that it couldn't even knock over a bike, so I guess no harm done. I mean, aside for all the asbestos and dust. Ah, well, I'm sure it's good for the sinuses. Tracy, the daughter of the headmaster, stops by to tell them not to be so glum about being confined to the school for the weekend while she goes off to ski and to deliver a tiny package to IQ. By the way, we're going to learn that this package actually contains a rare and dangerous artifact, an object that could change the world and bring death upon his head. And the guy who sent it made sure to make the time to tie a little string around the package for effect. The package is from IQ's Uncle Max, and it's a small amulet. Max? He's the chemist, isn't he? Yep, brilliant, but eccentric. This is just like him, sending me a strange stone amulet without a word as to what it is or what I should do with it. Last week it was that cursed voodoo statue. What's he trying to tell me? Mr. Mitchell, the gym teacher, decides not to knock and just enters, holding a telemessage for IQ. Oh look, James, there's a phonic call for you as well. This is from my uncle, too. It says, "Come to Venice at once, bring the amulet, matter of life and death, Max." P.S. I know I could have just sent this message with the amulet, but I have a lot of stamps that are going to expire soon, so I figured I might as well use them. There are also 2 tickets for the Orient Express to take them to Italy. Oh, yeah, it's a matter of life and death, so naturally, he gave them train tickets where it'll take potentially multiple days to arrive instead of, a plane. Yeah, I tried to figure out the math here. It is possible to go from England to Italy in about 16 hours, depending on your route, but that assumes modern high-speed rail, which the Orient Express was not. In fact, when it closed in 2009, one of the reasons for its closure given was that it couldn't compete with high-speed lines. Back when I did the original live show, I apparently came up with it taking about 31 hours, and I can't tell if that was one way or there and back. The 2 decide to go right in front of Mr. Mitchell. I'll forget I know about the telemessage and what you plan to do if you promise faithfully to be back in this dorm before Mr. Milbanks returns from his skiing trip on Monday night. Again, about 31 hours. Even if that's a total there and back, enjoy helping your uncle out for like an hour. And no one questions why he would send it to them and then expect them to come all the way back to him. Outside, someone is watching them with binoculars. Well, do we have a deal? You bet, sir. Yes, I have a really crappy view of the outside of the building, and I can't hear what's being said. As they board the train that evening, their pursuer apparently brought along special glasses that have a camera that lifts up over the newspaper that he's reading from to hide his face. Instead of just lowering the newspaper enough to look over at them since they aren't looking at you.
Just because it's futuristic doesn't mean it's practical.
That evening, the 2 were on the train and looking through the books that IQ brought along, which he said were essential. I say, IQ, what's so essential about graven iconography and talismanic engraving of the mid-Renaissance? Well, James, I also found this golden ring of power and wanted to see if I could identify the writing on my precious. Actually, he's hoping to identify the markings on the stone his uncle sent him. However, James is apparently annoying him. I got out some novels for you. They're in the bag on the seat. Why don't you take one down to the buffet car and give me some peace to work in? I mean, you just start getting weird when you're reading 50 Shades of Grey, James. However, when James opens the door, Oddjob is on the other side. Hello, I'm here with your complimentary laughogram. James is not in the mood for a laughogram and just smacks Oddjob with the book. How undignified is that? Not only that you got your ass kicked by James Bond Jr., but that he did so with a book. This is why Oddjob was only in one movie. And of course, the book that James used for this task? Murder on the Orient Express, with the most lackluster cover ever. Plains sans serif font on all purple. This is why people don't read the classics anymore. Knowing the door won't hold him for long, James grabs IQ and the stone. Oddjob's right outside. I don't think he's popped around for coffee. Don't you hate it when people come over uninvited and unexpected when you're just trying to chill?
Oh yeah!
James and IQ have gone to the top of the train and are crawling around, but Oddjob is in pursuit.
Ow! The dust! It's like being shot in the eyes by a glitter gun.
They soon spot him coming after them, and he's... I guess Oddjob just wanted to scream, I'm the king of the world, that's all. This is why you shouldn't judge people, James. Also, why is the moon transformed into a giant ping pong ball? Oddjob gets in closer and grabs the two, but for some reason James is still carrying around the book, which he uses yet again to beat Oddjob up. So this supposedly takes place after Goldfinger, but frankly I have an easier time believing this is Oddjob right after he dropped out of bartending school and he really hadn't figured out his thing yet. Just to add insult to injury, he apparently hit Oddjob so hard on the head that his hat has become stuck on said head. Again, it makes sense that this is a prequel. Now he'll want to get his hands on a kick-ass bowler hat instead. Anyway, IQ touches the stone to Oddjob's hat, turning it solid gold. A brilliant strategy! It's like bribing him so he'll go away! Also, what? With the hat over his eyes, Oddjob is knocked down when they hit another tunnel and knocked off the train, falling into some trees. IQ explains about the gold hat. Turned it to gold? You can't do that! That's illegal! IQ reveals that the object that he got is, in fact, the Philosopher's Stone. The ancient alchemists were obsessed with the idea of turning ordinary base metals into gold. I've heard some Air Force personnel are creating a device that turns dog poop into gold, but that sounds like it'd be really stupid. I feel like I need to start adding little comic editors' text boxes for callbacks like this, because I bet there is a good chunk of you out there who don't know about sultry teenage super foxes. But yeah, the stone was designed to turn base metals into gold. They created the Philosopher's Stone to do just that. Yeah, base metals. Like cloth fedoras.
Men obsessed with gold. That sounds strangely familiar.
Yes, maybe that guy who you met only 3 issues ago. And was the title character of his own movie. And is the guy who regularly employs Oddjob! James Bond is an idiot. And his nephew isn't too smart either. Anyway, they arrive at IQ's uncle's home to find it deserted and the place trashed. Somehow, this will lead to IQ becoming the spirit. They decide to head to the police as James pockets another stone from Uncle Max's lab. Our hero, a thief in the making! But anyway, they drive off in their boat, but run right into Oddjob driving a gondola. I call bullcrap. They left him in the forest the previous night. Even if he had someone pick him up and deliver him to Venice, why is he now alone in pursuit? Anyway, somehow their motorboat can't outrun a stick-powered gondola, although it doesn't really matter because there's a lion-headed submarine in the canals of Venice that swallows their boat. And yet somehow this still feels less dumb than the submarine in the canals of Venice in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie. On board the sub, our enemy stands revealed. Dr. Kananga! No, that would actually be a surprise. It's, of course, Goldfinger. Well, him and new pimp action Oddjob back there. However, Uncle Max is there too, so yay for the reunion? Why is he just on the bridge of the sub? Why do we not see anyone else piloting the thing? Are Oddjob and Goldfinger the only ones who came into work today?
The Philosopher's Stone. You knew IQ's uncle had rediscovered it and sent it to us for safekeeping. So you lured us here so we could deliver it in person.
I am, you'll agree, quite brilliant. Not really, since it seems like you could have just had Oddjob or another agent sneak into the school and grab the stone once you confirmed it was there. Then again, the uncle is pretty stupid too, since he sends it to his nephew and not to IQ's grandfather. You know, Q, the guy who would be able to protect it better because he actually works for MI5. Goldfinger demands they hand over the Philosopher's Stone, which James is happy to do. However, he pulls the old switcheroo, giving Goldfinger the stone he had nabbed from Max's lab. Remember this lesson, kids. Stealing will ultimately help you in the future. The three are led to a cell, where James explains the switch he made. While they work on their escape plan, Goldfinger tries to put the stone to the test, but is flummoxed by it not working. I am following the precise instructions in the alchemist's notebooks. I even did the special fan dance. Twice! He realizes that Bond must have switched out the stones and orders Oddjob to go get the real one. Also, what instructions? All IQ had to do before is touch it against Oddjob's hat and it turned to gold. Or is it only plug and play when it comes to hats? Our heroes make their escape by, what else, hitting Oddjob over the head with a book when he enters. I also noticed that Oddjob doesn't have a gun. Also, he wears a big medallion with OJ engraved on it. Although really, that's just for the new hip-hop album cover they're taking photos for today. But yeah, yet again, Oddjob is given a concussion by slamming a heavy book on him. Actually, I just realized, Murder on the Orient Express is not that long a book. Does James have a special edition with, larger font or something? Anyway, the next step of their escape plan is to turn the submarine gold. All of it, just by touching a door. Okay, stupid question, but if just touching a single door turns the entire submarine gold, why isn't it changing the hand that's holding the stone gold? Or the water around the submarine? Or the pocket they put the stone into, and consequently the clothes they're wearing? The ship begins to sink, and I'm also pretty sure steel is heavier than gold, but I'm no expert. With the ship sinking, Goldfinger hits the emergency sirens. Our heroes make their escape while Oddjob finally gets his hat off. His only reaction to all this is, uh-oh. Yeah, dude, I think you're gonna need to pawn off that medallion pretty soon. On the plus side, I'm sure Goldfinger will still be happy enough with the solid gold submarine that he'll give you a good letter of recommendation. Your Scaramanga's hiring. We get sort of an explanation why people aren't transformed in this next bit. Quick, into one of those mini-subs. They don't seem to have turned into gold. That's only because they're made of plastic and fiberglass, James, not metal. They wouldn't transmute even if you wanted. Ah, well, of course. That means humans are made of plastic and fiberglass. I mean, these certainly are made of plastic, I guess. Goldfinger and Oddjob also escape in their own little crowded mini-sub, no doubt leaving behind all the other people who worked for him that die horribly. Goldfinger's probably out of money because he doesn't have any cash funds to regularly pay people. Just lots of gold items he refuses to part with. Goldfinger, being a touch pissed off about this situation, readies a torpedo for our heroes. Fortunately, IQ has a plan for dealing with this. He dumps a vial of something into a beaker of something else, then puts it into a dump valve, launching it back at Goldfinger's sub. And explosion. So IQ has a body count now, right? And yes, to tie it all back together, what he dumped in there was the transium and rhenium mixture from the beginning. So why the hell were you carrying that with you? When your uncle said it was a matter of life and death, you thought that meant he wanted you to kill him? And so our comic ends with the two managing to get back to the academy before Milbanks returns. And apparently Milbanks thought that he should wear his skiing gear back to the academy.
There. Sure glad I don't look stupid in this.
James claims to be finishing up an assignment on Agatha Christie, which is odd since I'm surprised there's anything left of his book after the punishment it's taken. Milbanks also spots the Philosopher's Stone and asks what it is. Wow, what a wonderful headmaster who sees a rock and wonders what the hell it is. Also, why the hell do they still have that? Shouldn't Uncle Max be studying the thing, or any scientist examining it, to see if they can duplicate it for transmutation of other material? You know, turning garbage into building materials, or Rob Liefeld comics into things that don't suck? But yeah, they just tell Milbanks it's a paperweight as he suspiciously wonders if they've been up to something. Not us, sir. We've been as good as gold. Solid gold. Ah! You might have killed two people. Anyway, this comic sucks. It's admittedly better than the other James Bond Jr. comics I reviewed, but it's still pretty bad. The situation is ridiculous, the villains are morons, and our heroes are just slightly less morons. What's more, I love how this isn't actually a resolved matter. If they didn't kill Goldfinger and Oddjob, nothing is stopping the two from going after the stone again, since you guys still have it. They could just kidnap the uncle again and demand the real stone this time. Hell, the fact that they're just letting that thing sit on a table with them instead of examining— Hey, wait. Why wasn't the table turned to gold with it sitting there? What are the limits of this thing's power if it works on steel and fabric but not wood? The Agatha Christie connection is tenuous at best, considering they only spent like 7 pages on the train when the comic is 20 pages long. It just feels like they had the idea of referencing Murder on the Orient Express by having them take the train, but that had nothing to do with it since this is not a murder mystery on a train. And even if it was, well, spoilers, IQ is clearly the killer given his track record. But yeah, the comic is just ridiculous and full of plot holes, as one would expect from this series. But hey, the important thing here is another live show adapted into an episode and another James Bond Jr. comic reviewed. Maybe I need to start doing NFL Super Pro issues as live shows so we can finally get through those.
That
Just a little trick I learned in chemistry class. A simple mix of transium and uranium. So that's what happens when you mix them. Wow, the explosion on campus was so unimpressive that even James forgets that he saw that that's what happens.
Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store and via link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Teespring. Thanks for watching.